back here on, but they don't need to see me.
It's
I'm
on.
a nerdy looking one.
Cool.
Okay.
You need sea urchin.
Huh?
Sea urchin?
Yeah, well, yeah.
You can eat them.
Yeah.
Apparently they're
Okay.
delicious.
I've never ate one.
And I need, oh, there we go. Okay. Well, good morning. I'm Troy. I'm from the Indianapolis area. I work inside of Marion County, which is Indianapolis, and then up at a department called Pike Township, where I'm an engine officer, just a lowly lieutenant, which I call first class nobody. And then I also work in a small town just west of Indianapolis, where I live, about 30 minutes west of there, where I'm in a town called Danville. It's a combination department, and I'm their division chief over training and special operations. A little bit of about me is I came into fire service as a 14-year-old kid as a cadet. Started when I was 18 as a volley, and then 21 I became a career guy. And right now I'm about to approach 22 years in the fire service. I've been a paramedic for about almost 20. And I've worked in different areas, both in the really small rural area, and then I've worked in the urban area. The current two areas I work in, Danville has a lot of rural, but a little bit of suburban. And then in Pike, I have a lot of suburban, but I also have a lot of urban where it meets and interfaces with the city of Indianapolis, and we run a lot together. I'm in the local 416 out of Indianapolis, and then we did some firefighters cancer support network stuff. And I've worked as a paramedic at Wishart Ambulance Service, which did the inner city. And then I worked on the SWAT team a little bit for a couple of years as a paramedic for the police up there, where I just did stuff with them. So anyway, that's a little bit about where I come from. I'm married, got 2 kids that I hope still love me, since I'm gone a lot. And I know they love the money that comes in and everything when I go to places, or I mean when I work. When I do things like this, I don't get paid, and I don't want to get paid. So your guys' department here at Carborough bought my hotel room and took me out to dinner a couple of times, which was cool, but I didn't have to. But I purposely don't want to be paid for this stuff that I pass out to you guys. I want you guys to see that there is absolutely this much in it for me. So I hope y'all will just hear me out a little bit, and we'll go from there. Chief? And so this program is going to be divided into 3 parts, and what it is the Firefighters Cancer Support Network. There's 3 parts for that, where we find out a little bit about some cancer studies that have been done. I won't spend a lot of time on the methodology to them, that's my big word, but what I will do is show you guys a lot of pictures and graphs and numbers that just shows you how bad this stuff really hurts. Why I do what I do is based off of some experiences that I've had in my career. And I normally show pictures of people from my department up at home. Both of them have had people that have had cancer. But for my regular full-time department, I do what I do because of a guy named Ben Williams. We used to call him Gentle Ben. He's one of the big reasons that I do what I do. And he is this gentleman right here. And when I was in my early 20s and single and happy, now I'm married and happier and stuff, but we would go to Vegas every year. We go to play golf. He's in the military, which I know you're probably in the Marines, right?
I was.
You were? You're always a Marine. Thank you for your service, by the way. But he was a DI down at Benning for about 20-something years, so he was our ambassador of goodwill, as I call him. And but anyway, when we were in Vegas, he called me up to the room one time and told me he got sick. He had blood come out places it shouldn't be coming out of, and I dang near basically watched him almost die. And some other people, he's living now, he's pensioned off the job, loving life, he's retired down in South Carolina, living the dream, playing golf every day, which is really kind of cool. But some other folks in my department, I've been to their funerals, and that really freaking stinks, to be honest with you. So my department really has been decimated by cancer. At my department, Danville, we've had a few fight it and pass away, or sorry, not pass away, but fight it and win. But so it just really hits home with me as to why all this stuff happens. I'm gonna ask you to be my AV guy in case some of this sound doesn't work. But we'll start off with a little short video. Pay attention that one of the things that hits home with me on this is that 1 in 3 of y'all, there's a high probability to get sick at some point in time in our careers. Cancer is just really taking over the fire service, and there's a lot of reasons why that we're getting sick. The bad news is we can't stop from getting dirty because that's what we do is we go into fires. I mean, that's just literally what we do. But there are some things we can do to help minimize our risk a little bit. So it worked yesterday, but just need a little volume. There we go. Perfect. So that's kind of the start off to the class and everything. As I show different parts of this program, I add in a couple other things that, come on in.
Please excuse us.
Oh, that's perfect. I'm glad you guys are here. Glad you guys are here. So as we go through here, there was another class I did that talked about some different properties of fire smoke, and there's a couple lessons that are in that little presentation I bring to this one that will actually cost you this much to implement, and other than maybe a little bit of ego, and I promise will increase your chances of going home safer at the end of the day if you listen to those two things. Okay, so first part of this, whoops, there we go. First part is the cancer studies. We'll go through parts 1 and 2 a little bit. We'll take a little bit of a break. This takes roughly about 1.5 hours to 2, give or take-ish, depending on your questions that we do. And if I don't know the answer, I promise you I will do my best to find it. And so we'll just go from there. So the first part about cancer studies is the U.S. Fire Administration, along with the NFPA, they're on the next slide, they track firefighter deaths each year in the line of duty. How many do we actually average, just a ballpark, per year? You guys know?
About 100.
Yeah, about 100, so I got bad hearing. Yeah, so about 100, and what's the #1 cause of those deaths that they say?
Cardiac.
Yeah, cardiac events, right? So that's what they're saying. They're saying like well over half is what those are, but there's not a nationally recognized mechanism for tracking fatalities of those injuries and illnesses that we get after we retire that are things like cancer that are because of the job that we do what we do. My department is about the size of Chapel Hills, maybe a little bigger, and we do about the same run load as you do. Danville, where I work at, is the same size as you guys here in Carborough. So I get the best of both worlds here a little bit, which is awesome. But for my bigger department, and even some of the others, when people retire, we don't see them anymore. Do you guys agree with that? I mean, somebody retires, they're like, adios. They come down here to where you guys live because the weather's great. You got an ocean, which I think is great. But they leave. We don't see too much of them. Next thing you know, you get an email or something that says, hey, so-and-so's sick with cancer, or so-and-so passed away, or it's like, what in the heck happened? But there's no database that is tracking that. So here's some of the causes that they say 56% is from like cardiac. You can see all the other kinds. Internal trauma, these are line duty deaths from 2014. All right, so the IFF, which you guys are in, and I'm in, tracks statistics for cancer, which they say 60% of those names that are on the wall in Colorado Springs, line of duty death, have those folks have fought cancer. 60%, 60, it's 2 out of 3, and which is crazy. That's not tracking departments like Carborough, combination departments, volunteer departments that are not in the local. So if they were in those. If they track those, imagine how high, Chief, like imagine how high that those numbers would be when, if they tracked all the volunteer departments, which is what, like 80% of the country or more, give or take, or a combination of the stuff that's not it. There's a huge amount. of numbers that are going into there. In Indianapolis, they started putting a crew together. Some of the guys that from the city of Indianapolis, which were all in the same union up there, they that are detailed off because they've been fighting cancer. They put a group together and started going through every department in the confines of Marion County up there, and started looking at how many people were sick or fought cancer and just putting names together. They're just like, hey, can you tell me who in your department's had da 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 da? And that's how they started tracking it and putting those numbers together. And it's astonishing to see how many people have actually got sick, which is just, I mean, it really is crazy. And we'll talk about some of those causes as to why these things are happening the way they are. So cancer is one of the top line duty deaths that we have. I mean, it's an under-recognized threat. I mean, how many times do we go and there's threats everywhere for us? Where are some threats that you guys can think of that are all around that we take for granted? The general population probably doesn't, but we do. What are a few of them that you guys see where that we pick up these exposures?
Structure fire.
Structure fire, okay. When's the worst time for us to be in a structure fire without air protection? Overhaul, right? And then there's the very first part of the fire too that we get a ton of. We get a ton of them. I know you guys get a ton of them. Which ones am I talking about for structure fires? Cooking fire, food on the stove. And how many times, and I'm just as guilty as the next one in doing this, that we've walked in, we open the apartment door or the residence door or something, we get in there and we can see through the other side of the room, but there's a really good haze of smoke in there, going in there and you're coughing. And I'm like, yeah, Chief, you can disregard the box, it's just food on the stove, we're good, we can handle it. Leave me in the first ladder and we're good. You guys do that before? And just like send everybody else home. And those one or two exposures aren't a big deal, but the ones that are a big deal are the cumulative effects that we get, right? And then around the station, what's a really big one around the station that we run into?
Exhaust.
Exactly, and we'll really nail some of that home here in a little bit. So, what's not known about cancer in the fire service is that there's a healthy worker effect. I truly believe, and some of the studies are supporting this, that if it wasn't because we work out and we exercise a little bit and we try, relatively cheap here, we try to eat good most of the time. If we didn't do that as much, our numbers would be a lot higher. And that's all the healthy worker effect is. And a lot of these cancer rates are vastly underreported, or some of them are. And why is that? Why do you think they don't get reported?
Because we don't really keep records after
Retirement.
After retirement.
After residence fires, after structure fires that you go to. We're not keeping track of all those records. A lot of people don't get it till way later. And if you're like me, you just really love doctors, right? So I don't like going to the doctor, okay? So I just don't. There are three things in this world that petrify me, and not in this order. Snakes, dentists, and spiders. Dentists being number one. I am petrified of a flipping dentist. I swear. I would rather go dangle off a 300-foot rope off the top of a high-rise building than I would go to the dentist. That's true. Sad, but it's true. I just don't like them. All right, but there's no nationally recognized database for cancer, okay? Volunteer firefighters haven't been included, and imagine those numbers that it would be. So here's some of the studies that we'll talk about, but we're going to breeze over top because I want to get you guys the highlights. I have these studies on that little white thumb drive right there, that if y'all want them, I will send them to some of your people here, and it'll take me a little bit, so I may have to do it when I get home late tonight or first of the week. But I will send it. If you really want to read these, knock yourself out. Okay? So this first study was done in Florida, and where they studied between 1972, which some of y'all weren't born yet, and 1999. And they studied almost 35,000 male and 2,000 female, and compared them against the general population. And in male firefighters, they found that thyroid was one of the big ones down there. Testicular cancer is one of the big ones, and I'm not really shocked. And by the end of the program, you'll understand why these numbers are so big. And then bladder cancer was big, which my friend Jackie, who was at 9/11, passed away not too long ago. She was in her mid-60s, and she was at the towers within the first 24 hours of when they fell. And they worked with the FEMA task force team for 2 weeks there, solid. And so she got this crazy bladder cancer. It was like 1 in a billion chance that she was going to develop, and it was way after that she developed and they got back. And I really believe that she picked it up from the towers. All right, so you got female firefighters also. They have Hodgkin's, thyroid, and then there's some other cancers. But don't be alarmed so much at this number, this 525. That freaked me out the first time I saw it. I was like, holy crap. And but the reason is because look at how many have popped positive. The numbers are off a little because we didn't test that much of the population of females. Does that make sense? Okay, so there's not as many to go with. But the numbers, though, the gist of it is it's still very high. Still very high. Okay? So they're significantly likely to develop 4 different types of cancers according to this meta-analysis of 32 studies, and this was done over the world. This wasn't just America. There were some other ones that were done by Grace LeMasters. I want to say this was in 1990 that this was done, but males had 100% more likely to get testicular cancer. And when I show you some pictures of where soot and stuff sticks to us, you'll understand why. Multiple myeloma, which means you get a bunch of different things. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which runs big in my, that's in my family. It's had it, and then prostate has been another one. Any questions today? Okay, sorry I got bad news. Okay, but you have an increased likelihood, and these numbers back here, these aren't mortality numbers. This doesn't mean that like just because you get testicular cancer, you're gonna pass away. That doesn't mean that. This just means we're more likely to get this kind of stuff. You're significantly, that was the first one. This one, you have a possible increased risk of some of these other ones that are here. I know that you guys down here in North Carolina currently have a bill going through the General Assembly right now to try and get you some presumptive legislation. As that section of the program gets a little closer, we'll talk a little bit more about different things that were done in Indiana to help with that. So like you can see the numbers here, and we compared them to the general population, okay? All right, so what we're going to start seeing here is that what we do in our line of work exposes us to different chemicals and different things that give us a predisposition for getting some of these things. Brain cancer, a friend of mine passed away from that about 3 years ago. Hodgkin's, colon, kidney, and bladder. I mean, some of these we're seeing up north, but they're seeing them all over the world. Now, what this does is this was done in Massachusetts, and they compared them to police officers.